When you value yourself, you don't need to announce it. The world feels it. Education doesn't begin with books alone, it begins with awareness. And one of the most important lessons life teaches us, often through pain, is that the way we treat ourselves teaches others how to treat us. When you undervalue yourself, you unknowingly invite the world to do the same. But the moment you recognize your worth, everything begins to shift. Valuing yourself does not mean arrogance. It means understanding that your time is precious, your energy is limited, and your soul deserves respect. It means you stop apologizing for existing. You stop shrinking to make others comfortable. You stop negotiating your dignity for acceptance. Many people are exhausted not because they work too hard, but because they give too much of themselves where they are not valued. Education teaches us to invest wisely. So why do we invest our emotions, loyalty, and love in places that constantly drain us? Self-worth is learning when to say yes with intention and no without guilt. When you value yourself, you no longer chase validation. You no longer beg for attention, love, or approval. You realize that people who truly see your value will never ask you to prove it, and those who don't were never meant to stay. Pain becomes a powerful teacher when you respect yourself. It teaches you boundaries. It teaches you strength. It teaches you clarity. You stop asking, why am I not enough? And start asking, why am I allowing less than I deserve? That question alone can change the direction of your life. Valuing yourself also means forgiving yourself for the times you stayed too long, for the times you stayed silent, for the times you doubted your own strength. Growth is not about perfection. It is about awareness and courage. And here is the most beautiful transformation. When you value yourself, you inspire others to do the same. You become an example, not by preaching, but by living with self-respect, resilience, and grace. Because when you finally value yourself, you don't just change your life, you change your standards, your boundaries, your mindset, and your future. And from that moment onward, nothing remains the same. When you understand that self-worth is the foundation of all success, your entire way of thinking begins to change. Most people chase success first: money, titles, applause, recognition, believing that once they achieve these things, they will finally feel valuable. But life teaches us, often the hard way, that success built on low self-worth never lasts. It becomes fragile, noisy, and exhausting. You keep proving yourself, because deep inside, you don't believe you are already enough. When you value yourself first, success stops being a desperate chase and becomes a natural result. Self-worth is the quiet decision that you matter even when no one is clapping. It is choosing yourself on the days you feel invisible, rejected, or misunderstood. It is understanding that your value does not rise and fall with opinions, failures, or comparisons. Education teaches us that every strong structure needs a solid foundation. If the foundation is weak, no matter how beautiful the building looks, it will eventually collapse. In the same way, when your self-worth is weak, even achievements feel empty. You smile for the world but feel hollow inside. When you value yourself, you stop measuring your life through other people's timelines. You stop rushing because someone else is ahead. You stop doubting because someone else is louder. You realize that growth is personal, not competitive. This understanding brings peace, and peace sharpens focus. A focused mind makes better decisions. Better decisions create sustainable success. That is how self-worth quietly shapes your future. Low self-worth makes you tolerate disrespect, overwork yourself to be accepted, and stay in places that damage your spirit. High self-worth teaches you discipline. It teaches you when to walk away, when to rest, and when to speak up. It doesn't make you selfish, it makes you responsible for your life. And responsibility is the beginning of leadership, whether you are leading a company, a family, or just your own journey. Many people fail not because they lack talent, but because they don't believe they deserve success. They sabotage opportunities, settle for less, or quit too early. When you value yourself, you show up fully. You prepare better. You respect your potential. You stop shrinking your dreams to match other people's comfort. This inner alignment creates confidence, and confidence changes how you walk into a room, how you speak, how you negotiate, how you dream. Self-worth also changes your relationship with failure. Instead of seeing failure as proof that you are not enough, you see it as feedback. You learn, you adjust, and you move forward without losing respect for yourself. This mindset is powerful. It keeps you consistent. And consistency, not motivation, is what builds real success over time. When you truly value yourself, you no longer need permission to believe in your own strength. You stop waiting for someone to choose you, approve you, or rescue you. You choose yourself. And that decision, made quietly but firmly, is what transforms ordinary effort into extraordinary results. Just like the journey of Muniba Mazari, who reminds us that self-belief is not a luxury, it is a necessity. When you respect yourself, the world adjusts its behavior around you without you saying a word. This is not magic, and it is not luck. It is psychology, energy, and consistency working together. People respond to how you show up. If you show up apologizing for your existence, over-explaining your decisions, and tolerating what hurts you, others learn that your boundaries are flexible and your value is negotiable. But the moment you begin to treat yourself with respect, you send a clear message that your time, energy, and presence are not cheap. Self-respect begins internally, long before it becomes visible externally. It starts with the way you speak to yourself when no one is watching. If you constantly criticize yourself, doubt your abilities, and minimize your achievements, that inner dialogue leaks into your posture, your tone, your decisions. People sense it. They may not consciously understand it, but they respond to it. When you change the way you talk to yourself, you change the way you carry yourself, and that changes how others engage with you. Respecting yourself means you stop explaining your worth to people who are committed to misunderstanding you. You stop chasing people who only value you when it is convenient for them. You stop saying yes while your heart is screaming no. This shift may feel uncomfortable at first because you are breaking old patterns of people-pleasing and approval-seeking. Some people will resist this change, not because you are wrong, but because they benefited from the old version of you. When you practice self-respect, you become consistent. You don't demand respect one day and accept disrespect the next. You don't tolerate harmful behavior just to avoid conflict. You learn that peace is more valuable than being liked. This consistency teaches others how to treat you. Those who respect you will step closer. Those who don't will slowly step away. And that is not loss, that is alignment. The way you dress, speak, listen, and respond also shifts when you respect yourself. You are no longer loud to be noticed or silent to be accepted. You are calm, clear, and grounded. Your words carry weight because they are not rushed or desperate. Your silence carries strength because it is chosen, not forced. People begin to listen differently. Opportunities appear differently. Conversations change tone. Self-respect also means honoring your limits. You don't exhaust yourself to prove loyalty. You don't sacrifice your health to prove dedication. You understand that rest is not weakness and boundaries are not rejection. This awareness creates confidence, and confidence commands respect without aggression. Most importantly, when you respect yourself, you stop allowing others to decide your value. You become emotionally independent. Praise becomes appreciation, not survival. Criticism becomes information, not identity. This inner stability makes you unshakable. And when you are unshakable, people treat you with care because they understand that you know who you are and what you deserve. A truth powerfully embodied by Muniba Mazari, whose presence alone teaches that self-respect is the loudest statement you will ever make. Breaking the habit of seeking validation is one of the hardest and most liberating lessons you will ever learn. Because validation feels like love at first, but slowly turns into dependence. When you rely on others to confirm your worth, you hand them control over your confidence, your peace, and your direction. One compliment can lift you up, and one criticism can destroy your entire day. That is not strength, that is emotional captivity, and most people don't even realize they are trapped. From a young age, we are conditioned to seek approval. Good grades are praised, obedience is rewarded, silence is admired, and gradually we learn that love is something we earn, not something we deserve. This mindset follows us into adulthood. We start living for likes, applause, acceptance, and recognition. We edit our personalities to fit rooms. We hide our truth to avoid rejection. Over time, we lose connection with who we really are, because we are too busy being who everyone else wants us to be. Seeking validation is exhausting because it never ends. There will always be someone more successful, more confident, more attractive, more admired. If your worth depends on comparison, you will always feel behind. The moment you understand this, you begin to realize that no amount of external approval can fill an internal void. You could be celebrated by thousands and still feel empty if you don't believe in yourself. Breaking this habit starts with awareness. You begin to notice how often you look outside yourself for permission to rest, speak, to dream, to choose differently. You catch yourself explaining your decisions unnecessarily, justifying your boundaries, waiting for reassurance before trusting your own judgment. This is the moment where growth begins. Instead of asking, "Do they approve?" you start asking, "Does this align with who I am becoming?" Letting go of validation does not mean you stop caring. It means you stop needing. Appreciation becomes healthy when it is a bonus, not a requirement. Criticism becomes manageable when it is feedback, not a verdict. You learn to sit with discomfort because not everyone will understand you, and that is okay. Your job is not to be understood by everyone. Your job is to be honest with yourself. As you stop seeking validation, you become more authentic. Your voice becomes steadier. Your decisions become clearer. You stop performing and start living. Some people may feel uncomfortable with this version of you. They may accuse you of changing, becoming distant, or becoming difficult. What they really mean is that you are no longer available for manipulation or emotional convenience. This shift takes courage because approval once felt like safety. But real safety comes from self-trust. When you trust yourself, you don't abandon your values under pressure. You don't betray your needs to avoid loneliness. You don't silence your intuition just to fit in. You stand firmly, even when your hands shake. Breaking free from validation is not about becoming cold or detached. It is about becoming grounded. It is about choosing inner alignment over outer applause. And when you reach this place, your confidence no longer depends on noise. It becomes quiet, deep, and unshakable. The kind of strength reflected in the life and words of Muniba Mazari, who shows us that the most powerful approval you will ever receive is the one you give yourself. Setting boundaries without guilt is one of the most misunderstood acts of self-respect because many people confuse boundaries with rejection, arrogance, or cruelty. But boundaries are not walls built to keep people out. They are lines drawn to protect what matters inside you. When you don't set boundaries, you slowly teach yourself that your needs are less important than everyone else's comfort. And that lesson damages you quietly day after day. Guilt appears because you were taught that being a good person means being available, agreeable, and self-sacrificing at all times. You were praised for overgiving and criticized for saying no. Over time, you learn to associate boundaries with fear of disappointing others. But the truth is, every time you say yes to something that drains you, you are saying no to your own peace. And peace is not a luxury, it is a requirement for growth. Boundaries begin with honesty. Honest awareness of what exhausts you, what disrespects you, what crosses your limits. If you don't acknowledge these signals, your body and mind will force you to listen through burnout, resentment, and emotional shutdown. Setting boundaries early prevents breakdown later. It is an act of intelligence, not selfishness. When you start setting boundaries, discomfort is inevitable. People who benefited from your silence will question your change. They may guilt-trip you, label you as difficult, or accuse you of becoming distant. This is where guilt tries to creep in. But guilt does not mean you are doing something wrong. Often guilt is simply proof that you are breaking an old pattern that no longer serves you. Learning to say no calmly, without explanations, is a powerful skill. You don't owe everyone a reason for protecting your energy. Over-explaining weakens boundaries because it invites negotiation. A boundary stated with clarity and respect does not need justification. You are not responsible for managing other people's emotions when you choose yourself. Boundaries also teach others how to engage with you in healthier ways. When you are consistent, people learn what is acceptable and what is not. Some relationships grow stronger with boundaries because they become built on mutual respect rather than obligation. Others fade away because they were only surviving on your overextension. Letting those relationships go is not failure, it is emotional maturity. Setting boundaries without guilt also deepens your self-trust. Every time you honor your limits, you reinforce the belief that you are worthy of care. This inner validation builds confidence. You stop resenting people because you stop abandoning yourself. You show up more present, more patient, and more authentic in the relationships that truly matter. Boundaries protect your dreams too. Without them, your time gets consumed by distractions, demands, and expectations that have nothing to do with your purpose. With boundaries, your focus sharpens, your energy aligns, you begin to live intentionally instead of reactively. This lesson is not about becoming rigid or cold, it is about becoming clear. Clear about who you are, what you can give, and what you will no longer tolerate. And when you practice this clarity with courage and compassion, you embody the strength reflected in the journey of Muniba Mazari, who teaches that protecting your dignity is not an act of defiance, it is an act of self-love. Turning pain into power is not about pretending the pain never happened, and it is not about forcing positivity over wounds that are still bleeding. Real strength begins when you stop running from your pain and start listening to what it is trying to teach you. Pain is not sent to destroy you, it arrives to wake you up, to strip you of illusions, and to reveal the parts of you that have been neglected for far too long. Most people either drown in their pain or deny it completely. Both keep them stuck. When you drown in pain, you define yourself by what hurt you. When you deny it, you carry unresolved weight that quietly controls your decisions. Power is born in the middle G, round, where you acknowledge the pain without allowing it to become your identity. You say, "This happened to me, but this is not all that I am." Pain sharpens awareness. It forces you to slow down and examine your life honestly. You begin to see patterns you ignored, boundaries you never set, and truths you avoided. This awareness is uncomfortable, but it is also transformational. Education is not always gentle. Sometimes it arrives as heartbreak, loss, disappointment, or failure. If you allow it, pain becomes your most honest teacher. Believing in yourself during pain is an act of courage. It means choosing self-trust when evidence feels scarce. It means standing up on days when your confidence feels broken. Pain tries to convince you that you are weak, unlucky, or unworthy. Power answers by saying, "I am still here," and that means something. Every time you keep going despite emotional weight, you are building resilience, even if you don't feel strong yet. Turning pain into power also requires responsibility. You stop blaming the past for every present struggle. You take ownership of your healing. Not because what happened was your fault, but because what happens next is your responsibility. This shift changes everything. You move from victimhood to authorship. You stop asking, "Why did this happen to me?" and start asking, "What will I do with what I've learned?" Pain teaches empathy. When you have been broken, you recognize brokenness in others. Your compassion deepens, your patience expands, and your judgments soften. This emotional intelligence becomes strength in leadership, relationships, and self-growth. You stop reacting impulsively and start responding wisely. Power also comes from redefining success after pain. You stop chasing things that once impressed you but no longer fulfill you. You prioritize peace, alignment, and meaning. You learn that survival is not small, and healing is not weak. You honor your progress, even when it is invisible to others. Most importantly, pain humbles the ego and strengthens the soul. It removes arrogance and replaces it with grounded confidence. You no longer need to prove your worth loudly, because you have faced your darkness and survived. This quiet strength is unshakable. It does not need validation. It does not fear setbacks. When you look back one day, you will realize that the moments that hurt the most shaped you the deepest. They refined you, redirected you, and revealed your inner power, a truth lived and spoken with courage by Muniba Mazari, whose life reminds us that pain does not end us. It introduces us to our strongest self. Living authentically begins the moment you stop betraying yourself to survive in spaces that were never meant to hold you. When you finally value yourself, authenticity stops feeling risky and starts feeling necessary. Before that, you shapeshift to be accepted. You edit your truth to avoid conflict. You silence your needs to keep peace. But peace built on self-abandonment is not peace, it is slow erosion. The day you decide to live authentically, you decide that your inner truth matters more than external approval. Authenticity is not loud rebellion, it is quiet alignment. It is waking up and choosing actions that match your values, even when no one is watching. It is speaking honestly without cruelty, standing firmly without aggression, and walking away without hatred. When you value yourself, you no longer confuse attention with love or tolerance with respect. You choose environments that allow you to breathe, grow, and be seen without performance. At first, living authentically feels uncomfortable. You feel exposed. You worry about being judged, misunderstood, or rejected. That fear is natural, because for a long time your safety came from fitting in. But slowly you realize something powerful. Rejection hurts less than self-betrayal. You discover that being disliked for who you truly are is far less painful than being accepted for a version of yourself that feels false. When you value yourself, your decisions change. You no longer ask what will impress people, you ask what will honor you. You no longer stay silent to avoid tension. You speak with clarity because your voice deserves space. You stop tolerating jokes that hurt, situations that drain, and relationships that demand you shrink. This is not selfishness, this is self-leadership. Authenticity also strengthens your resilience. When life challenges you, you don't lose yourself trying to please everyone. You stay rooted in who you are. You don't collapse under criticism because your identity is not built on opinions. You don't inflate under praise because your worth is not dependent on applause. This emotional stability gives you courage to take risks, to grow, to fail forward without losing yourself. Living authentically also attracts the right people. When you stop pretending, you stop attracting connections based on illusion. The people who stay are those who respect your truth. The ones who leave were never aligned with your growth. This natural filtering brings depth into your life. Fewer relationships, stronger bonds, clearer energy. Authenticity teaches you accountability too. You stop blaming circumstances and start owning your choices. You accept your flaws without excuses and work on them without shame. You allow yourself to be a work in progress, not a finished performance. This honesty accelerates growth because you are no longer wasting energy on pretending. When you value yourself, your life becomes simpler, not easier, but clearer. You know what you stand for, you know what you will no longer tolerate. You move through the world with integrity instead of confusion. This alignment is powerful because it cannot be shaken by trends, pressure, or fear. This way of living is not about perfection, it is about truth. And truth is strength. Strength embodied by Muniba Mazari, whose journey teaches that authenticity is not something you find. It is something you choose every single day.